Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. The day has finally come, the day we've all been dreading for so long now. Phil Coutinho has pretty much finalised his move to FC Barcelona, and it is time to wave goodbye to the number 10 that we have all just fell in love with over the past few years. He is sadly leaving the club for a deal which is £142 million altogether. The original signing on fee will be something like, I think, £106 million. The other £36 million will be in add-ons, but they are apparently guaranteed and very achievable. They're not like the ones that were proposed in summer, where it was stuff like, you know, if Coutinho wins the Ballon d'Or, if Coutinho wins the World Cup with Brazil, if Coutinho cures the common cold and all that kind of rubbish. They are achievable add-ons, so the fee should hopefully rise to the £142 million that Liverpool will hopefully be receiving for it. But yeah, it's pretty much been announced. Liverpool have announced on their website that he's going. Barcelona have announced on their websites that he is arriving. It's basically just personal terms to be agreed now, which I think we can all safely say are not going to be a stumbling block, because Phil Coutinho was absolutely desperate to leave Liverpool and go to Barcelona. But yeah, the deal is now done. Liverpool have lost their potential best player, certainly their star man, Phil Coutinho, and it's disappointing, but it was just so inevitable by this stage. You know, I think we've all kind of come to terms with the fact Phil Coutinho was going to go. It's a little bit of a shock that it's come during this transfer window. I think we'd all seen how Phil Coutinho had pulled his finger out this season after all the rubbish that went on over the summer transfer window. It felt like, you know, he was going to show some respect to Liverpool, show some respect to the fans, to the manager, to the team, honour his contract until at least the end of the season, and then get the move to Barcelona in the summer. But sadly, he's just kicked up a fuss yet again. Clearly the lad is so desperate to secure that move to Barcelona, and there was just nothing stopping him at the end of the day. You know, Jurgen Klopp made a very frank, very honest statement to the fans after the signing was announced, just saying that we've tried everything we can to keep Phil Coutinho. You know, We've tried to convince him that being in Liverpool is just as exciting as if he went to Barcelona. The project here is just as promising as it would be if he went to Barcelona. But sadly, Phil Coutinho was just so adamant that he was going to leave. And it's just, if there's one thing that really annoys me about it, it is just that all the animosity and the horrible way that Phil Coutinho's gone about it, really. You know, it would have been nice if he'd done what Suarez did, where he respected everyone and said, okay, I'll just get my head down, I'll work hard, I'll help the team, and then I'll go in summer when I've done my job, and now I'll do a little bit of time to get ready to adjust. But sadly, we are not going to get that extra 4 or 5 months with Phil Coutinho, and it does put our season in quite a precarious position. And if there's one other thing I'm a little bit disappointed about, it is the fee, because I think we could have actually got a fair bit more for Phil Coutinho. I think he's worth more than 142 million in today's market, especially when you consider that 36 million of that will be coming on in add-ons. Like I said, add-ons that we probably will get, but they will take time to come through. We can't spend all the Coutinho money straight away if we were planning to reinvest it immediately. Obviously, I don't think the Van Dijk deal is being funded by this Coutinho deal. I think we have yet to see the Coutinho money being spent. But yeah, I would have just liked to see us get a little bit more. I think a lot of it is down to the fact that Barcelona were the only club who ever had any serious interest in Phil Coutinho, and the player was so desperate to go, and so desperate to go specifically to Barcelona, that we didn't really hold many cards in terms of negotiating the actual fee. Obviously, we held a lot of cards in terms of actually negotiating whether or not the player left in the first place, and that's why we managed to hold on to him in the summer and then eventually lose him in January, a little bit earlier than I think we were all expecting. But when it comes to the actual fee, we weren't really in a very strong negotiating position. So 142 million, obviously a lot of money. Going to be great to see how Liverpool do invest that back into the squad, but I just wish that we'd got a tiny bit more. Personally, I would have valued him at around the 170, 180 million mark, and if a PSG or anyone had come in like that, then maybe we would have got a little bit closer to that. So yeah, obviously all attention now moves to how Liverpool are actually going to replace Phil Coutinho in their squad, because it's very early on in the January transfer window. We have got plenty of time between now and deadline day on the 31st of January to actually bolster our squad once again and reinvest that money coming through from Barcelona and fill the void that Phil Coutinho has left in the squad. Obviously, over the last 5 months as well, they will have already been planning at the club for Phil Coutinho's inevitable departure, even though they will have been expecting it to come along in the summer. Those scouts and the directors of football and everything they will know their targets, they will know who they're after, and it's already been emerged that the front runner to replace Phil Coutinho is Thomas Lemar of Monaco. We all know that Liverpool tried to get hold of him in the summer. We didn't quite manage it. I think our interest was registered just a little bit too late. We didn't quite get in quick enough, and we bid around 75 million. Monaco turned it down. They wanted a little bit more, which Arsenal actually ended up bidding and got their bid accepted. But Thomas Lemar, as we all know, rejected that move. He wants to come to Liverpool. Once again, Liverpool hold that massive bargaining chip in these negotiations that really all we have to do is get the fee over the line and we've basically got the player signed. We don't have to do any more convincing. It sounds like talks have already been held between the player and the club, so that is incredibly promising. There's also talk that Monaco will have softened their stance from the summer transfer window because they know now that Thomas Lemar, he does want to go to Liverpool. The space is available for him at Liverpool now with Philippe Coutinho going, so he's going to be even more adamant to try and push that move through with the Monaco managers and directors of football and everything. And with him not signing a contract, which is what they were hoping he was going to do, his current contract is running down. His transfer value is going to start dropping window after window, so it's possible that Monaco will now look to sell Thomas Lemar in this January transfer window, whereas previously they may have preferred to hold on to him until the summer. So it is possible now that a bid of around 70 million, potentially one with, I've seen people saying that maybe one with add-ons that rise to about 90 million pounds could actually tempt Thomas Lemar and tempt Monaco to actually sell their player to Liverpool. And I think Thomas Lemar, you know, he's a little bit young. I don't think he's quite ready to fill the Coutinho boots yet. I think the idea was to bring him in over the summer, bed him in for a year at the club, and then when Coutinho left next summer to Barcelona, then Thomas Lemar would be around about ready to fill Coutinho's shoes. He's only 22 at the moment, you know, which is around about the same age that Phil Coutinho was when he arrived at Liverpool. So he's certainly not the finished article. I don't think he's quite ready to take on the Coutinho mantle. He's not going to be able to be Liverpool's star man and game changer like Phil Coutinho was, but I certainly think further down the line, give him a few years, a bit of time to adapt to Klopp's style, adapt to English football, and just mature a few more years as a footballer. I think it's perfectly possible that Thomas Lemar could fill the shoes left by Phil Coutinho. And another player that's been mentioned in potential Coutinho replacements is Leicester's Riyad Mahrez, who would cost a little bit less than Thomas Lemar. The fee being touted for him is around about £45 million. I reckon Liverpool could potentially push that down a little bit because there was talk that Riyad Mahrez could go for somewhere a bit closer to 30 or £35 million in the summer transfer window, I think. Personally, I'm a little bit less hot on the idea of Riyad Mahrez than I am Thomas Lemar, just because I think, you know, he's about 27 years old now, I think, so he hasn't got as much room for improvement. There really isn't as much time as there is for Thomas Lemar for him to grow into Coutinho's shoes or anything like that. Positioning-wise, he might be a little bit more suited to replacing the Coutinho role than Thomas Lemar, although he does like to play on the right-hand side, whereas Thomas Lemar likes to play on the left, although Tommy Lemar is left-footed, Riyad Mahrez is right. But I think, you know, that's the kind of position that Phil Coutinho played, so Thomas Lemar would be suited to playing there on the pitch. But I just don't think he's quite high quality enough, you know, and I'm kind of worried that with what we saw when Liverpool sold Luis Suarez to Barcelona, we just really didn't invest the money right. We bought a lot of players, we bought them in the same positions, sometimes in the same kind of mould as Luis Suarez, but we just got players like Lambert and Balotelli who simply were just nowhere near the quality of the player we were trying to replace. Whereas I think Thomas Lemar, if he does come to Liverpool, give him a little bit of time and he will certainly grow into the role that Coutinho has left vacant at Anfield. Whereas with Riyad Mahrez, I'm just not entirely sold on the idea. And I think he'd be decent at Liverpool, and if we bought in Thomas Lemar and Riyad Mahrez, I'd be perfectly happy. But my worry with Riyad Mahrez, if we bought him in and didn't bring in Thomas Lemar, is just that I don't think he's quite good enough. I don't really see him starting for Liverpool consistently with all the attacking talent that we've got, and especially if we got Thomas Lemar, I don't think Riyad Mahrez would be a regular in the team, and I don't think he'd be perfectly happy with that. You know, Riyad Mahrez wants to be a star player. That's how he made his name at Leicester, and he won't want to leave, even though he wants to leave Leicester to be at a bigger club, he won't want to leave just to sit on the bench for someone, and I'm not entirely sure he would be a consistent 100% crucial first team player for Liverpool. And there is also the suggestion that maybe all of these Mahrez rumours were actually just kind of smoke and mirrors from Liverpool to try and get Monaco to soften their stance, because Monaco knew that Liverpool were desperate to sign Thomas Lemar. So it's possible that Liverpool thought, okay, if we tell the media just to say that we're after Riyad Mahrez, Monaco might soften their stance a little bit. And Monaco did soften their stance on Thomas Lemar reportedly very recently. So that could have worked. But yeah, personally, I'd loved us to go for Thomas Lemar. If we do, it would be quite nice to get Riyad Mahrez as well. There's also talk that Liverpool could potentially do with a more deep-lying playmaker as well. Someone like Goretzka, or I think it's Stefan Milinkovic-Savic, have both been mentioned. These kind of players who can fulfill the defensive midfield role, but also pass it out from deep and get creative moves going. Because if there was one thing that really stood out from the Merseyside derby win in terms of negatives the other day, it was the fact that our midfield was just completely devoid of creativity, and just getting an attacking midfielder may not be enough to fix that. Liverpool may need their deep-lying midfielders to actually do a job as well, because, you know, Philippe Coutinho was an excellent creator and could pretty much do the job by himself. Tommy Lemar is a good footballer, but maybe just isn't good enough to do all that string pulling all of his own volition, and he may need a couple more midfielders by his side to help him out with that. Obviously, Keita will be a positive there. He will certainly help us out, but I reckon we could probably do with another player. And as a further side note, I think in the long term, and I am talking long term here, I think that Ben Woodburn could potentially, emphasis on potentially, like I say, long term, this is very far in the future, it's all very hypothetical, but I reckon Ben Woodburn could be a long term successor to Philippe Coutinho. We've seen him playing that deeper role, being deployed in the midfield three in pre-season. He's done pretty well. He's got that creative side of his game as well as the goal scoring side, so I think it'll be interesting to see Ben Woodburn's progression in future. There's talk of him going out to Sunderland, not the best club for me in my opinion that I think Ben Woodburn could go to, but they're managed by Chris Coleman. Obviously Ben Woodburn knows him from playing for Wales, and he did well under Chris Coleman playing for Wales. He got those goals and assists when he was playing for them, so that would be fantastic. I think it would probably be the right move for him to go out on loan now, help him get a little bit of development at Liverpool, and then come back a better player. So all in all, in terms of Coutinho replacements, I think if Liverpool could get in Thomas Lemar and then one of those defensive playmaking midfielders like Goretzka or Milinkovic-Savic, then I think we will have not completely filled the Coutinho void, because he's the kind of player, he's like Luis Suarez, and that you can never fully replace him, but you can have your best shot at it. And I think by getting those players, Liverpool will do their best to replace Phil Coutinho at the club. And last of all, if you do have a Philippe Coutinho shirt from this season, if you have any of these season's kits with Coutinho 10 on the back, Liverpool have put out a statement saying that you can send your shirt back to them and get a £50 club store voucher in return, which is a very lovely gesture from the club. You know, sometimes when these things happen, like with the Firmino shirt number change thing, they do the shirt signing thing, which is kind of nice, but it doesn't go the whole hog. And I think it's just so crushing to lose Philippe Coutinho in January, and I think it's the right thing from the club. It's a very nice gesture. They've kind of gone above and beyond and gone out of their way to compensate fans who've been unlucky enough to get Coutinho shirts. I mean, they could have just said, look, you should have seen this coming, but no, they've been nice. They've let you have a £50 voucher, so if you do have a Coutinho shirt from this season, mind, it has to be a 2017-18 kit, then do get your replacement as soon as possible. Lovely gesture from the club, that is. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, why not give it a like? If you're new around here as well, hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back soon with either some pre-match content for Liverpool versus Manchester City, or fingers crossed, some transfer talk over a player like Thomas Lemar, Riyad Mahrez, Goretzka, Milinkovic-Savic, or just anyone, to be honest. Hopefully we'll be talking about Philippe Coutinho's replacement before you can even say he's gone. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.